let me take you into a moment you know too well. It's late, the lights are out, the world is quiet, yet inside your chest there's a storm. Your mind won't stop racing, playing scenes of every mistake, every possible failure, every disaster that hasn't even happened. You tell yourself to relax, to breathe, but the knot in your stomach doesn't loosen, and the heaviness in your chest doesn't leave. In the morning, you put on a smile, you talk to people as if everything is fine, but deep down a quiet war is still raging. Most people don't see it, but almost everyone carries it, the hidden weight of worry. We stress about money, relationships, jobs, health, and futures. We obsess about how others see us, and we try to control every little detail, yet no matter how carefully we plan, life finds ways to remind us that we're not in control. The solution, strangely enough, doesn't come from something new or modern. It isn't hidden in the latest app or productivity trick, and while therapy and tools help, there is something ancient that has stood the test of time. 2,000 years ago, when life was just as uncertain, when people faced wars, betrayal, sickness, loss, and heartbreak, they discovered a way not to escape chaos but to live through it with strength. That way was Stoicism. It was practiced by emperors, warriors, slaves, and thinkers. They couldn't control the storms of the world, but they learned to master their responses, and in doing so, they discovered freedom. I know how this feels because I've been there. A few years ago, I was trapped in my own cycle of worry. I checked my phone dozens of times a day, refreshed my inbox like it held the answer to my peace, and constantly sought approval from others. I believed that worrying made me responsible, that it showed I cared. But in truth, it only showed I didn't trust myself. Then one night, I came across a line from Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who carried the weight of ruling an empire during wars and plagues. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It hit me like lightning. I had been fighting battles I could never win, trying to control the uncontrollable, when all along the only battlefield that mattered was inside me. That realization changed everything. The beauty of Stoicism is that it doesn't require you to rebuild your entire life. You don't have to escape your circumstances to find peace. All you need to change is how you see and respond to what happens around you. That shift alone transforms worry into calm, chaos into clarity. One of the first practices the Stoics used was something they called premeditation. Instead of running from fearful thoughts, they faced them head-on. Each morning, they would imagine the day ahead and ask themselves, what could go wrong? Who might insult me? What losses might I face? What tests might come? By calmly preparing for these possibilities, they stripped away fear's power. Seneca said, "Heroes present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." The idea wasn't to drown in negativity but to train for reality. When the moment came, they weren't blindsided, they had already practiced their patience, their composure, their strength. You can try this right now. Before a meeting, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen, and how would I handle it with calm? Before making a decision, ask, if I lose everything, what do I still carry inside that cannot be taken? At the start of the day, ask, who might push my buttons, and how will I choose to respond, not with anger, not as a puppet pulled by emotions, but as someone who remains in control? Worry thrives when life feels uncertain, but once you've already rehearsed the storm, uncertainty loses its teeth. You may still feel nerves, but fear won't own you anymore. Lived by. And little by little, applying principles like these reshaped their lives from the inside out. They became proof that while you cannot master the world, you can master yourself. And when you do, you discover a kind of strength no chaos can touch. Each morning before the noise of the day rushes in, take just a couple of minutes to close your eyes and imagine what might go wrong. Picture the meeting that doesn't unfold the way you hope, the unexpected insult, the rejection, or even a sudden setback. Instead of dreading these possibilities, welcome them in your mind as if rehearsing for a role. Then whisper to yourself, I'm ready. That simple ritual shifts something deep inside you. It isn't about living in fear of what could happen, it's about preparing your spirit so life cannot catch you off balance. This is what the Stoics practiced, not to escape life's hardships, but to meet them with calm strength. Think back to the last time you worried endlessly about something you couldn't possibly change. Maybe you obsessed over the weather, replayed a mistake from years ago, or felt crushed by someone's silence after you reached out. Maybe you check the economy every day as though your anxiety alone could alter it. We've all done this. But the more energy we waste on things we can't touch, the smaller and more powerless we feel. That's where the Stoic insight shines. Life is divided into two simple categories: what you can control and what you cannot. In one category lie your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your reactions, and your values. These are yours. In the other are things like other people's decisions, the past, the future, and final outcomes. These are never yours. The mistake most of us make is pouring our attention into the second category, fighting against what we can never change. It leaves us burned out, bitter, and anxious. But the Stoics flipped the focus. When someone insulted them, they didn't fixate on the insult, they considered how they would respond. When the future was uncertain, they didn't spiral in predictions, they steadied their minds. When betrayed, they didn't dissolve into resentment, they guarded their own integrity. This is the Stoic test of control. With every worry, ask yourself, is this mine to carry? If the answer is no, set it down. If the answer is yes, act on it with full strength. Imagine daily life through this lens. Someone writes something cruel about you online, you can't control their words. But you can decide whether to lash out or remain composed. You don't get the job you longed for, you can't control the hiring manager's decision. But you can sharpen your skills, apply again, and keep your dignity intact. Slowly, your energy stops scattering against brick walls and starts flowing into open doors. Worry begins to dissolve, not because the world becomes kinder, but because you become stronger. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every day, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It's worth saying aloud, or writing somewhere you'll see daily, I control my actions, not the world. Yet there's another truth we rarely notice. Much of the anxiety weighing us down doesn't even belong to us. It seeps in from the world around us, from relentless headlines, from arguments on social media, from gossip whispered in our circles. How many times have you felt low, not because of something happening in your life, but because of something you read, something someone else posted, or some looming catastrophe painted in bold letters on a screen? That's imported worry. And it drains us. The Stoics were careful about what they allowed into their minds. Seneca advised surrounding yourself with people who strengthen you and being someone who strengthens others. His advice wasn't limited to friendships, it stretched to everything we consume. If you flood your mind with noise, anger, and fear, don't be surprised when peace feels out of reach. So the discipline becomes clear: guard your mind as though it were sacred ground. Curate what enters. Unfollow accounts that stir insecurity or rage. Limit the news to a few trusted minutes instead of endless scrolling. Step back from people who thrive on drama, complaints, or fueling fear. Create space for what nourishes you: wisdom, clarity, and perspective. This doesn't mean turning away from truth or responsibility. It means building strength so that when truth arrives, you meet it from solid ground. The Stoics often compared the mind to a garden. Leave it untended, and weeds of worry and chaos take over, choking out what is good. But if you guard it, plant carefully, and nourish it with discipline, the garden grows strong and beautiful. Worry only survives when it's fed. Starve it, and in its place grows calm, focus, and resilience. Picture yourself at the end of a long day. The world outside is quiet, but inside your mind, it still feels like a storm. You replay conversations you wish had gone differently, scroll through endless streams of news and opinions, or sink into worries about tomorrow. Each thought feels heavy, and instead of bringing peace, the silence only sharpens your restlessness. Most people carry this weight into sleep, hoping the night will wash it away, but it lingers, waiting for the next day. Now imagine a different ending. Instead of drowning in noise, you sit with yourself in calm. You close your eyes, slow your breath, and ask a simple question: how did I live today? This practice, simple as it sounds, was at the heart of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that peace wasn't found in escaping your thoughts, but in facing them directly with courage and honesty. They didn't see reflection as punishment, but as a tool for growth. Seneca described how, when the house fell silent and his wife had drifted to sleep, he would replay his entire day. He wasn't scolding himself or magnifying his failures. Instead, he was carefully examining his actions, like a wise observer. He would ask himself, did I act with courage? Did I let something outside my control disturb my peace? Did I say words I regret, or did I remain aligned with my values? It was a gentle but firm audit of his character, a way to ensure that each day, no matter how small, moved him closer to wisdom. Think of how much anxiety grows because we don't process our days. We ignore feelings we don't want to face, avoid mistakes we don't want to admit, or bury experiences beneath distractions. But avoidance only lets unease expand. Reflection shrinks it. By looking at your day with calm honesty, you strip events of their power to haunt you. You see them for what they are, lessons, not burdens. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, did the same. Despite leading armies and ruling an empire, each night he turned inward, writing quietly in his journal. His private notes, never meant for others, became what we now call meditations. In them, he reminded himself to stay humble, to resist anger, to hold fast to virtue. These were not the words of a man above struggle, but of someone determined to stay grounded while surrounded by chaos. His reflections were his shield, his way of protecting peace against the weight of the world. Now bring this into your own life. You don't need hours, only a few minutes. Sit quietly before sleep. Ask yourself, what did I handle well today? Where did I lose myself? What can I carry into tomorrow? Write it down if you can, because words on paper hold weight. Don't judge yourself harshly, simply notice. Each reflection becomes a small stone added to the foundation of your character. Over time, you start to see patterns. You realize what drains your strength, what lifts your spirit, and what steals your calm. Slowly, you grow steadier. Less shaken by small troubles, more anchored to your values. This nightly ritual transforms the end of your day. Instead of drifting into sleep with a restless mind, you drift with clarity. Instead of avoiding your emotions, you train them. Instead of being ruled by chance, you begin to live with intention. Reflection doesn't erase the struggles of life, but it sharpens your ability to meet them with composure. Worries loosen their grip, because you've already faced them. The spinning of the mind slows, because you've given it direction. You fall asleep lighter, and wake up stronger. There are moments when life feels like it has turned against you. A relationship ends when you were desperate to hold on. A door closes when you were certain it was the one you needed to walk through. News arrives that you prayed you would never hear. In those moments, your mind doesn't accept what is, it wrestles with it, replays it endlessly, questions it, and imagines how things could have been different. That resistance hardens into worry, sadness, even bitterness, and you carry it like a weight that never loosens. The Stoics offered a different way. They called it amor fati, the love of fate. Not tolerance. Not gritted teeth acceptance. Love. At first, it sounds impossible. How can you love the very thing that hurt you? But this idea was never about enjoying pain. It was about transforming how you see it. To the Stoics, everything that happens is not a punishment but part of the path. Nietzsche later echoed the same thought when he said that true greatness comes when you no longer wish anything to be different, not the past, not the future, not even eternity. The challenge is not to resist fate but to embrace it, to say yes to it as your own. Think of the moments you didn't choose, the breakup, the failure, the rejection. On the surface, they feel like loss. But hidden inside is a chance to grow. The breakup might force you to rediscover yourself. The failure might teach you humility and sharpen your persistence. Marcus Aurelius saw obstacles this way: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That mountain you never wanted to climb may end up shaping the strongest version of you. This doesn't mean you pretend to enjoy suffering. It means you pause when it arrives, breathe, and tell yourself, amor fati. You ask, how can this make me wiser? How can this shape me? What can I build from this? By asking these questions, pain stops being an enemy and becomes a teacher. Worry, instead of consuming you, begins to transform into curiosity. You no longer ask, why me? You ask, what now? And that shift gives you strength that cannot be stolen. But most of the time, our worry isn't about what has already happened, it's about what might happen. The mind races ahead, imagining sickness, rejection, failure, loss. It fills tomorrow with shadows and drags those shadows into today. Yet if you strip everything away, right here in this moment, you are breathing. You are alive. You are safe. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to stay in that truth, confine yourself to the present. He also wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason that arm you today." When you stay in the present, fear loses its grip. Anxiety cannot survive in the now, it can only live in the past or in the future. The present is all you truly own. Imagine catching yourself drifting into worry, then gently pulling yourself back. You feel your feet on the ground, your breath moving in and out, the air around you. For a moment, there is no past to regret, no future to dread, only now. And in this moment, there is no disaster, no enemy, nothing to fear. There is only life, and life is enough. The Stoics didn't stop there. They didn't just teach presence, they taught preparation. They knew life was unpredictable, so they trained themselves to be unshakable. One of their greatest practices was to deliberately face discomfort before it arrived. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men, would sometimes set aside days to live with almost nothing. He would sleep on the floor, wear rough clothes, eat the simplest food, and ask himself, "Is this what I feared?" Why would a man with access to every luxury live like a beggar? Because he understood that fear grows in the unknown. By stepping into discomfort on purpose, he made it familiar. If he could survive hunger, cold, or roughness by choice, then if those things ever came by fate, they would not destroy him. He had already rehearsed survival. Worry thrives on unfamiliar pain, but when pain becomes something you've practiced, it loses much of its power. You can do the same in small ways. Skip a meal and notice you can still think clearly, still move with energy. Take a cold shower and feel the shock pass, replaced by a sense of resilience. Spend a day without your usual comforts and realize you are stronger than you thought. These aren't punishments. They are training sessions. Proof that you are capable of more than your mind believes. When you live this way, accepting what comes, returning to the present, and training for hardship, something inside you shifts. The storms don't stop, but they no longer knock you over. You don't waste energy wishing life were different, or fearing what might happen next. You walk lighter, calmer, more free. And in that quiet strength, you discover something most people never find, peace that doesn't depend on the world, but on the power of your own mind. The morning air was heavy with silence as he lay in bed, staring at the faint light breaking through the curtains. The warmth of the blanket begged him to stay, to sink back into sleep, to postpone the day a little longer. His body whispered excuses, just 5 more minutes. Just a little more rest, but he had made a quiet promise to himself. So, with effort, he swung his feet to the floor and stood. The air felt colder than he wanted, the task ahead harder than he wished, yet he began anyway. The first battle of the day was won not against the world, but against himself. He sat at his desk with the hardest work waiting before him, the kind of task most people put off until it grows heavier in their minds. His thoughts resisted, his focus wavered, but he pressed on, word after word, line after line, until something shifted. The work was still demanding, but he was no longer fighting it, he was carrying it forward. When he finally leaned back, he felt a different kind of reward. It wasn't comfort. It was proof that he was stronger than his own resistance. Later that day, the storm came. Not the kind of storm that wets the streets, but the kind that shakes the heart. A message he didn't want to receive, a rejection he hadn't expected, a setback he wished he could undo. He felt the old pull toward panic, the temptation to replay the moment endlessly and drown in what if. But he remembered the mornings he had chosen difficulty on purpose, the skipped meals, the cold showers, the early risings. He remembered the discomfort he had faced by choice and realized this, too, was just another form of discomfort, though not chosen. If he could endure the small storms he invited, he could weather the great storms that arrived uninvited. Instead of collapsing, he stood steady. He told himself, "I grow stronger through challenge." But strength alone wasn't enough. He noticed how his friends lived, always chasing results, their eyes fixed on how others saw them. They worried about whether they would win, whether they would be praised, whether they would succeed. And when things went badly, their peace collapsed with their plans. He used to live the same way, but he had learned something different. He no longer asked, "Will I win?" He asked instead, "Am I living rightly?" If he told the truth when it was difficult, if he showed courage when it mattered, if he treated others with kindness, then he had already succeeded. No applause was needed. That evening, as the sky grew dim, he thought about the day. The temptation to complain was there, about the rejection, about the effort, but he set it aside. He asked himself, "Did I act with honesty? Did I stay true to my values? Did I grow stronger today?" The answers gave him a quiet peace. His conscience was clean, and no wealth or fame could replace the calm he felt in his chest. The world around him was loud, restless, and frantic. People rushed, feared, compared, and exhausted themselves chasing what they couldn't control. But he remained still. He knew storms would always come, that life would never promise ease, yet he also knew he had the strength to endure. He didn't need to escape challenges, he needed only to meet them with clarity and discipline. That was freedom. That was peace. And as he blew out the lamp by his bedside, he whispered to himself a simple reminder: I choose calm. I choose strength. I choose to live by virtue, not fear.